are two married widows and a thrice divorcee. Together, we navigate loss with humor and insights on our podcast. Our goal is to encourage our listeners and each other to overcome grief, find courage, and embrace life again. If you're going through a tough time right now, know you're not alone. Please join our community of listeners and let's find hope and healing together. Thank you for joining us on our podcast today. I am here with my very dear friends, Bridge and Judy. We are here to let you know that we have some things we'd like to talk about. But first things first, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Laura Mazelis, and I will be your host today. I'm here because I lost my husband in 2021. It was a sudden death, and so therefore we were, I can't even tell you. It's still hard to talk about, even though it's been 2.5 years. We have a son. He is 18 now. You know, when Al passed, he was just turning 16. And so we've done many, many years of trying to recover from this horrible event. But we're here today to learn how to move on. And I would like to introduce you to Bridge, who will explain to you how we met 7 months later.
My name is Bridget Miles. I lost my husband in the same year Laura lost her husband in September of 2021. And we live right down the street from one another. So right after my husband passed, it was a Halloween night and Laura was walking by with your dog. Were you walking your dog? Yeah. And I was shouting her name, but I was saying Lori. So she was ignoring me. So I went up to her, touched her on the arm and said, "Hi." And she said, "Oh, were you calling me? My name is Laura, not Lori." And I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry."
I wasn't trying to be, jerk.
I know it was a very comical introduction and bold, very comical and bold because I just said, guess what? I lost my husband too. He passed a month ago. Maybe I should get your number. Maybe we would be good support for one another. And that was over 2 years ago. And we have become very, very good friends. And that's part of the reason why we're here doing this podcast, because we talk a lot about, our loves, our husbands, the loss of them, and what we're going to do moving forward. And so we have another girlfriend that is my girlfriend, Judy Beck, and I've known her for almost 20 years now. And she has experienced some loss in her life also. And I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you about her losses.
Thank you, Bridge. I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
We're happy you're here.
Yes. My name is Judy Beck, and I am a thrice divorcee. Bridge and I have known each other, like she said, for almost 20 years. After my second divorce, I moved up the street from her, unbeknownst to each other, that we were living right up the street from each other, until we found out on Facebook when I posted something. She's like, "Oh, you're right up the street."
It was actually Snapchat, and it was...
No, Snapchat wasn't around then. It was Facebook.
It was.
20 years ago?
No, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. It was Facebook.
Are you sure? Because it was...
Yeah, because that was before you went off Facebook.
But it was giving me your location.
Yes, because I was tagging myself.
Whatever.
Okay.
Talking way over my head.
Okay.
It was tagging her as living up the street in an old apartment complex that they didn't have, that didn't even go by that name anymore. But I recognized it from having lived in the same neighborhood for so long. And I think I reached out.
She did.
And said, "Are you up there in those apartments?"
Yeah, Bridge, you're so brave.
I'm so brave.
Yeah, she is brave. But we met through a mutual friend many years prior to that. And we would always hang out. The three of us would always hang out and do stuff together, happy hours and stuff like that. So we became very familiar with each other. And then when we realized we lived right up the street from each other, it was like a win-win for me.
Serendipity.
It was serendipity.
It really
and then
was.
I got a dog and she had a dog and we would meet at the dog park. And
you would bring your little dog over to my house.
Or my little bag of wine. And I didn't have to drive, which was great. But yeah, and we stayed in touch ever since. And she's been with me through the last
And then she got remarried.
trials and tribulations.
Then she got married again and left me. She left the neighborhood, but we stayed friends.
We stayed friends and we stayed in touch. And we support. We were both going through some stuff, and we reached out again, and got even closer. And then her husband's passed away. And then I was there. I was very important for me to be there for her, and I was. And we became even closer. And then my husband woke up and told me he loved me, gave me a kiss, and 2 hours later came back and told me he was leaving me. So that's how.
That would be husband number 3. Hence the title of the podcast, The Thrice Divorcee.
Yes. So that was and she's been my rock since then.
Same girl, same.
Helping me get through it.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. And then I met Laura because she was going over to Widow's Friday. What would you call that? What was it?
What were we calling it? Whining Widows Friday or something
like that. I was like, well, can I come? And she's like, well, you're not a widow. And I'm like, but I lost a husband. I did not say that. I know she did not say that.
I said, of course you can come.
She made fun of me though.
Probably did.
You did. And then we were like, let's all 3 get together. And then we did.
And that's how we became 2 merry widows and a thrice divorcee.
Yes. There you have it.
I got it. Now, what's our motto? Life, love, loss, and rebirth.
That's it.
That's it.
That is the mantra that we are trying to live by these days.
Should it be life, love, loss?
It's life, love, loss, and rebirth.
And rebirth.
Redo the intro.
What did you say? Lost?
Love, life, loss, and rebirth.
You're going to have to redo the intro. It's very important that we get that in order. Life, love, loss, and rebirth.
All right.
And we're all going to get tattoos. LLLR.
LLR.
Don't believe them.
Triple R.
L cubed R.
Oh, there you go. With a little microphone.
There you have it.
I got room.
Laura.
Maybe that'll be our logo, right?
That should be our logo. We just designed our logo, ladies.
We did. We did.
Woo-hoo.
And our tattoos.
And we have the artist that can draw it up.
That's good. I like it.
I like it.
L cubed R.
Well, we've got it recorded, so I can't forget.
It's official.
Are we recording?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Now what? Don't worry, I can cut out all the silence.
She can cut out the silence. She can cut out the flubs. And then we can have a bloopers reel.
Bloopers.
What should our topic today should just be, well, so do we want to discuss just the pain of the loss? Or is that too heavy?
That's too heavy for today.
Okay. What do you guys want to talk about?
Especially because we're too sober.
I was going to say this does go better with wine, doesn't it?
We won't take all of this out because I really like it.
We need the wine.
I don't know, life is very different.
Life
a lot
is different
than what I expected it would turn out to be when I was, 10 in Connecticut, dreaming about what my life would be. Golly, I just turned 50.
She sure did.
I lost Al when I was 48. I mean,
young.
Yes, I was lucky to have him for 24 years, but what am I going to do for the next 24
years? And so, in your experience is different because you met young, married, and
we're married to one person.
And you had your child together. You had your life together. You were happily married as happy as any married couple can be because we have our ups and downs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the ebbs and flows of a marriage. And
that's the life.
It's a fun roller coaster. We just go up with it and down with it, and we just keep on rolling. And then Bridget has been married twice, and she lost her second husband. I've been married 3 times and lost 3 husbands, but they're still living. All my exes live in Maryland.
Should look at her face right now.
So life going forward, I don't know. I will be the first to admit that I just don't know. My husband died suddenly. I was 50 when he passed. He had just turned 60, so I had just turned 50.
Are you 10
That
years?
can't be right, because then it would be 3 years.
Girl, you are 53.
Well, I was 51 because it was 2021.
Yes.
So it was I was 51.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought that my second husband, we saw a future where we weren't going to have to work anymore. We were going to retire. He effectively was retired. And we had talked about doing some things. We wanted to buy a different house so we could have a big yard for our dog and get more dogs. We wanted to travel. He liked to travel. We talked about a lot of things we were going to do. And then one morning, he said he couldn't breathe. I called 911 and that was the last time I saw him alive. So life going forward is very different and also very unknown.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years and I'm really still just trying to figure it out.
You're still processing.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
I'm still processing.
You're still processing. And everybody processes it differently. My process was I packed his stuff.
Judy, I'll tell you this story. It was hilarious. Judy, the third husband left. About a week later, he came back to the house and he was going into the bedroom to get some of his stuff. And Judy said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "Into the room to get my stuff." And she said, "Oh, all your bleep in the basement."
Yes, packed up. And I even put it in a box.
To the left, to the left.
Within a week, everything he had in the living portion of that house was in the basement.
Yes.
That's how Judy processed.
I processed it as quick as I could.
Does this mean now that the podcast is considered explicit?
Yes.
Did I just ruin it?
SHIT, is that a dirty word? No, I don't think so. You do it on cable, right?
We can bleep it.
Let's bleep.
We'll bleep.
Bleep.
My foul mouth. I'm very sorry. Laura will have to bleep it.
Yeah. Well, we haven't dropped the F-bomb yet.
I'm trying real hard not to.
That's probably because we're not drinking.
But I could work that word into just about every conversation I have, but I'm trying really hard not to. I'm trying to behave.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think with this podcast, we also want to branch out to the community to see what your experiences are and how you overcame being alone. I don't know. Learning how to be a single parent.
Well, and I think that's the other thing we all have in common is that it all happened and we're all relatively the same age, me being the oldest in the group, but married and divorced at 55 3 times is not how I saw my life planned out. I mean, I never thought I'd get married to begin with because I was always afraid I was going to be the old maid. Not anymore.
And here you are.
And here I am. You
overcompensated.
I think you're right. I think I did. I overcompensated.
I blew that goal.
Yeah. Well, I did tell you what my dad said. He said, "I think you just like planning the weddings."
Yeah, the weddings are fun.
The weddings are fun. Yeah, no more.
But yeah, being that we are all relatively young, Laura being the youngest. I mean, losing your husband at 48, losing your husband at 51, being divorced 3 times at 55. It really changes the outlook of the rest of your life.
Right.
The scope.
Yeah. Yeah, because do I want to do it all over again?
You're not going to.
No, I mean, yeah, not even that. Just
I won't allow it.
I know it's not Bridget approved. Bridge not approved. But do I want to be? Do I have a relationship with somebody else and just keep it very casual and this, or do? Because I don't even know if I want to live with somebody else. I don't even know if at this point in my life I'm capable of commingling on a full-time basis.
Yeah. So that's a conversation. How do any of us feel about?
I was making decisions without the other person, and that was so very weird for me. And I also would be in limbo because I couldn't make the decision. So I just did there.
Because you don't have the soundboard. You don't have that partner anymore that you can say, well, what do you think? Is this a good idea or whatever? And then you had Max to think about and what his, guiding him through his loss and keeping him on track to finish school. And what does he want to do for the rest of life? And you had that partner you could talk to about it with, and now you don't. So where do you, and do you want to even have another partner and discuss those things with them?
I don't even know.
How do you?
Poor Max. He's just like, I don't think that every mother talks to her son like I do. Like I'll run upstairs and like, guess what I learned about the mic today? He'd be like, what, Mom? Let's hear it.
He is your other voice, other person in the house. And so that makes perfect sense to me.
I talk to my dogs.
I talk to my dog. Literally, I think the neighbors think I'm crazy because I'll be outside in the backyard and say, well, Princess, what do you think we should do with this piece of whatever I found in the yard? Should we clean this off? Should we throw it away? And I'm literally talking to a dog.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
We all have dogs.
So that is my sounding board in the house right now, my dog. And it's kind of sad, but.
Well, I do have my adult daughter living with me and her boyfriend and their child, and it is a blessing and a curse maybe, but I love seeing my granddaughter every day. I love interacting with her, so that's the best part about it. But sometimes I think she forgets whose house it is, or maybe
your daughter.
Yeah. Well, my granddaughter, she just rules the house. She's the granddaughter. But I mean, I feel like I can't make any decisions on what I'm going to do until I know what she's going to do, because I feel like when I was going through the divorce and didn't know if I was going to be able to keep the house and how I was going to manage to pay the bills and this and that on my own. Her biggest fear was, where am I going to live? How is this going to affect me? Which I get it, because she's got a child that she's supporting and has to provide shelter for. So, and Maryland is not an easy place to live.
Maryland is not. It's an expensive state.
Very expensive.
Yeah, and, it is.
So there was a lot of uncertainty with her, and what I was going through was affecting her. And so I felt like I had the weight of the world on me, because if I couldn't refinance the house and keep the house, what was I going to do with my 3 dogs? What was I going to do with my daughter, my granddaughter? Where will we all go? What were we going to do? And it all worked out that I was able to keep the house, and so everything kind of stayed the same. So it's been nice, because at least I know, I do have them around if I need anything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm really starting to like my independence.
But that was a difficult time because there was a lot of uncertainty, I remember. And, not only were you processing the loss of a husband, you were dealing with the still being a parent, having your daughter, even though she's in her 20s, in your house. So all of your decisions affect your daughter, your granddaughter. And so you have to deal with all the practical implications of everyday life and being a parent, but also trying to process heartbreak, really.
Yep.
It was a tough time.
And then my dad had a heart attack the very next day. The same weekend he left, my dad had a heart attack and ended up in the hospital and didn't know what was happening there. And,
that's a lot.
It was just a lot to process in a short period of time. And just like a sudden death is a lot to process.
It was a very chaotic year.
Yeah. I think for all of us, it's just been chaos. And now it's starting to settle down. And
I know I was in a very deep depression for at least a good year.
Mm-hmm. Am I don't know. I'm still very sad, but I have been getting therapy help for almost 2 years now. And so I think it is helping me change my views. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'll just think about, why am I having a bad day? Is it because of the situation? Is it because of my mood? Or, I'll try to flip the script and then rewrite it. Yeah.
Well, everything has, for every action, there's a reaction, and for every reaction, there's an action. And so when things come, we sometimes have to flip it, because otherwise we get stuck in these cycles of depression. And because this was the first time I've ever been medicated for depression, because I just couldn't handle it. And I was crying. You could say good morning to me and I would just start bawling. And I'm like, why am I crying? But I was, I guess, processing the loss in my way. And, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So my doctor put me on it, and I tried to go off of it, and I just started crying again. And I didn't know why I was crying. And I was like, oh, that's because I've been off my meds.
But it was working though. Okay, good.
Don't be afraid to take it.
Yeah.
If you need it. Because I take a very low dose, and I don't think I even have to increase it. And he did put me on some anxiety medication, but that was as needed. And I took myself off of that, because he's like, do you need any more of this? And I'm like, no, I'm really trying not to take that anymore. And I was only taking it to sleep at night to get me through the night. But that one I was like, no, I don't want to take that one anymore. But antidepressants have been a godsend.
I started taking antidepressants about 6 months after Mike passed. And my doctor, it wasn't my idea. I've had the same doctor for 15 years, maybe closer to 20. And so I was very close with her. And when I told my doctor that my husband, I had an appointment, and I went in to my appointment and I told her my husband passed, and she welled up with tears, because she knew some of the things I was struggling with him to begin with, because he was getting ill. He wasn't perfectly healthy. And anyway, she made me come in every 3 months. I'm like, why am I coming back in 3 months? And she said, just because I want to check on you. And at one point she said, I told her, I'm like, I'm not functioning well. I'm not dealing with everyday life. I take care of my mother, and I'm like, I'm just having a very difficult time just processing and functioning in everyday life. And she did put me on antidepressants, and I'm still on them. And yeah, I agree. If you need a little help,
And I don't know that I'll ever want to come off of them at this point. I told my doctor, is it okay for me to stay on them?
Deal anymore? Everybody I know is on antidepressants.
Well, I was just worried about the long-term side effects of being on it because of my other health issues. So, and I take a lot of medications, so I have to worry about, drug interaction and stuff like that. But it has not. It really has been for the best. And now I'm out there single, ready to mingle. No.
Oh my goodness. That's not going to happen.
That's another podcast. No, but it definitely helped.
Yeah. So what techniques, Laura, do you think you have used to try and just kind of deal with the difficulties of functioning with everyday life?
Probably doing too much so that I'm distracted. And that's something I've been doing very regularly for 2.5 years.
Well, your house is beautifully clean.
No, do not go in Max's room. Don't go into the basement.
Lily's 18.
And we only have one working bathroom.
Because life keeps coming at you.
I know. Well, and that was me. I had to totally, my house didn't pass inspection for the refi.
Right.
So the stress of that, and then I had to put another $10,000 into the house just to save the house so I could keep the house. Was it even worth it? I'm grateful now, but back then those were all the things that I had to think about. Do I want to put another $10,000 into this house and stay, or am I better off selling and moving somewhere else? What am I going to do with the dogs? Because I have a nice yard. So it just really,
it was a lot to think about.
But life happens.
Life keeps coming at you.
We're all one one toilet break from disaster. I only have one bathroom.
From having a meltdown.
I would really be in trouble if my bathroom went out, and it did. It leaked.
Do you have a skylight in your living room?
No, I do not.
Like I do.
Don't have that.
Get it fixed someday.
I do have a plethora of paint samples on my wall because I hadn't decided what color I wanted to paint my living room yet. So I do have, and it's been like that for almost a year now. So I'm like, I have picked the color. I've painted the kitchen. I painted the kitchen cabinets. I painted the bathroom. Painted the bathroom cabinets.
Oh, you are a doer.
So, she is a doer.
Yeah. So now I've finally decided on the color for the living room, but that's going to be like an indoor project. So I figured I can wait until like probably after November, after Thanksgiving, probably November, January. I might do it.
I think that's a healthy response. Projects, remodeling. I do.
Yeah. I mean, I
don't want to do any of it, but
right. I mean, I bought new furniture.
Yeah. I've done nothing.
I just had to make changes.
Yeah.
Because
I felt the same way. And I know this seems like, yeah, you did that. Duh. I got a whole new bed. Got rid of the entire thing from top to bottom and just got a new bed. It was all mine. No history.
Well, that was probably a good thing.
Yeah. It was such a project though. And what was it, a month or so after, the funeral's done and all these things were, check marked off for all the end of life duties that you need to deal with. My whole family was a little worried about me because I would get into these projects and I couldn't stop. And I would literally pass out on the bed, vertical, not vertical, but you know what I mean? Like you're not sleeping on your pillows, you're sleeping sideways. And I would just be completely and utterly exhausted because I just can't stop. I couldn't stop. And I still fall into that trap every once in a while, but what are you going to do?
Right. And sometimes it becomes, when is it going to, and then is it going to end, or you're in the middle of a project and then another project pops up like, oh, well, while I'm doing this, I should do that. That's how my kitchen cabinets got painted, because I started painting the bathroom cabinets. Then I'm like, oh, well, what if I put this color in the kitchen? Because I like this color. And then it just kind of can snowball like that. And then I get on these, and I just get on these, not tears or rants, but I just get caught up in it. And I'm like, okay, I can't finish until I stop now, or I can't stop until I finish.
Yes.
And then I've been known to stay up all night painting glasses and doing crafts.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit jealous. If that's an unhealthy tendency, I'll take it, because I have none of that. I've done no projects. I can't even think of a project to do that I want to do. I pretty much have a hard time keeping up with laundry. If I have 2 clean baskets of laundry, and I do mean baskets because they don't get folded and put away very often, I feel like I've accomplished something for the week, because I am the opposite, apparently, of these two. When I am overwhelmed or depressed, or I do nothing, I just turn into a vegetable.
See, I got to keep moving.
I wish I had that problem.
Yeah. I mean, for a while there, my house was super clean because I was sweeping and vacuuming every day, but I don't do that as much anymore. But I'm constantly.
You could have come to my house. Your house was too clean. You could have come to my house.
It was too clean. Well, then I go outside and I have to clean up after the dogs, and I have to cut my grass, and
I struggle with all that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to do it. Should I tell my mailman story?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh my goodness. I feel so bad. I completely shell-shocked the mailman the other day because I was out cutting my bushes and trying to dig up some stuff out of my garden, and my front yard and my garden. Everything is overgrown and looks horrible. And the mailman, jokingly, he went to deliver a package next door, and he jokingly said, "Oh, your husband. You need to tell your husband to do that." And for whatever reason, without thinking, I stopped and I looked at him and I said, "My husband died 2 years ago." the poor mailman was like shell shocked, and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." And I said, "No, I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm like, I didn't mean to blurt that out, because that's an odd thing to blurt out when you're just trying to, to make a joke and go through your day." And the mailman came over, gave me a little hug, and then started telling me a little bit about losing his mother. And I think that's one thing that almost all adult people, and sometimes younger people, we've all lost somebody, and someone always has a story about death and losing someone, and the memory of that person and how it's still there. And he told me, his mother died 20 years ago and he still thinks about her every day. And I'm like, because I think that's just the way it is. I don't think, and he said, I'm still not over it. And I said, I don't think you ever get over it. I think that's the thing with death. You never get over it. You just learn to live with what the new normal is.
Mm-hmm.
So me and the mailman had quite a deep little conversation there in the middle,
a bonding moment
in the middle of his day. But
it probably made his day.
I mean,
Should we tell him about the podcast?
a little, I didn't go that far, but a little social interaction for the mailman in the middle of the day. But I don't know why I just blurted that out like that, because it jars people when you tell people, when you blurt something out like that, like, oh, my husband died 2 years ago. Their eyes just open wide and their mouths drop and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's okay. I think the point, I don't, I appreciate people's sympathies, but it's after 2 years, you get used to the idea, still learning, still dealing, still figuring out the new normal, but it gets a little easier to say, my husband died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas when he first died, I couldn't even.
You couldn't say the words.
I couldn't say the words. I mean, I literally every day was just crying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember the day after it happened. And all the medical folks left, the policeman left, the psychiatrists left, and you're just left there alone. And I just literally curled up on the sofa and just breathed.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I could do.
Yeah.
I cried. And I still can cry almost at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, but can we talk about how I found out about Mike's death?
Yeah, sure.
We were supposed to go to lunch. So I texted her and said, hey, how about if we go to the Eastern Shore for lunch today? And she said, girl, I got some bad news. MK died today. And that was all she said.
That was my husband's nickname. We called him MK. His name was Mike, and we called him MK.
But I was like, so I called.
I'm sorry I dropped that bomb on you like that.
And I called her and she didn't answer the phone. And I texted her back and I said, girl, you cannot just drop something like that on me and then not pick up the phone when I call you. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry. My sisters are here. And I was like, as long as somebody's with you, that was my main concern, was that you were not alone. But I was just like, you can't do that.
And I still remember texting that. I really do, because I think I was still in a state of shock.
You had to have been. The way it came across, it was like, girl, I got some bad news. And that was how I was envisioning you saying it. And then as I'm reading it, I'm going, what? Is that what she's saying?
Because I don't think I knew. And it took me a long time to write that text, because I kept thinking, well, I can't go to lunch today. Something has come up. That's not right. And I erased it. Well, I need to talk to you. Something has happened. And I kept writing a line to text, and I kept erasing it. And then I just thought to myself, I just have to tell her. So I'm just like, hey, girl, Mike died. And I do believe I was still in shock. I was still in shock.
It took us a year later to get our lunch over, and we went over to St. Michael's.
Yeah.
We just went over recently to St. Michael's. That was where we were going to go that day. I was like, let's run over to Kent Island, either Kent Island or St. Michael's for lunch and spend the day just driving and just clearing our heads.
Yeah. But it was that day, that morning that it happened, and several after, for a long period after, I think I was in shock.
But we have a lot going on in our lives. And I think we're all off to a good start in rebuilding, because I think now it's a rebuilding year for us. And whether we choose to date or not date, or just get on with our lives, just reintroducing Bridget to society again, because she's been cooped up in our house for forever. That she's got, you talk about anxiety. I think you've mentioned anxiety. I know she's got anxiety. I have some sort of anxiety, but mine's probably more PTSD than anxiety from what I've been through.
PTSD of divorces?
Yes.
Divorce PTSD?
I've had divorce PTSD from 3 bad marriages, but I mean, they weren't all bad, but at some point they just broke down. Anxiety and how that has affected you in moving forward. That's a good topic too.
Yeah.
So how are we going to wrap up this episode? Our very first episode.
I think it went great, ladies.
Yeah. I think you guys did great too. Think we can do this again?
Yeah. I think we need to just keep being comfortable.
I think we can do this again.
All right. Well, I'm game if you are.
I'm game.
I'm game.
I'm hooked.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Two Merry Widows and a Thrice Divorcee. We are just getting started and plan on releasing a new episode every other Wednesday. Our social media channels are being built, and you will be the first to know where to find us. So stay tuned, and thank you for being our very first listeners. Bye.